What is going on, everybody? So in today's video I am back with another tier list for you guys. So I didn't make one in September because there wasn't an update in September. So basically we didn't have any meta changes. All the guns stayed the same and there was no need to make another tier list. But as you guys probably know, in this update there was a ton of balance changes. So I've been playing the update a lot and I have tested out all these balance changes and how all the weapons play now. And every single time I rate a weapon in the tier list, there will be gameplay to back up what I am saying. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. So unfortunately, starting us off, I'm gonna have to put the handgun in D tier. So this weapon took some massive nerfs from this new update, and it definitely took the hardest hit, I think, out of any weapon. It's really bad now. Basically every single secondary is a better option now. So if you're not like starting the game, I think you should use any other secondary over it. And the pistol's damage is just not good anymore, so do not use the handgun anymore. I'm gonna have to put the smoke grenade in C tier. I know a lot of you probably think it's better now that you can use 3 instead of 1 without a cooldown at the start of a match, but I still don't think it's that good just because it's still hard to locate your enemies while they are inside the smoke and while you're also in the smoke. So I feel like it's really no benefit for you to use the smoke grenade, and the other utilities I still believe are better. Also in the C tier, I'm going to be putting the trip mine. So the trip mine was also buffed. You can use 2 of the uses at the start of the match instead of having 1 and then you get to wait like the entire match to use it again. Yeah, it's kind of cool that you get to use 2 now, but I mean, it's really easy to avoid a trip mine. And it's pretty rare that someone actually gets hit by it. And you also can't launch in the air as high anymore. So I feel like it's kind of useless in the team deathmatches. You can like spam them really quick when someone's chasing you and you can probably kill them, but other than that, it's really not that good. I'm gonna need some of you to forgive me for this, but the trowel is, let's just say it's at like the very top of the C tier, the very bottom of the B tier. Just know it's not that bad, but it's really not that good. So the trowel can like block people off. You can also hit it to make it hard, and you can sometimes launch yourself up in the air a little bit. But I really believe that the other melee weapons like the scythe, the katana, even the knife are probably better options for you. And the trowel, I've always said since the game came out, it's really not that good. A lot of people might be good with the trowel, but I personally do not think it should be any higher on this tier list. Going all the way from the S tier to the B tier is gonna have to be the Uzi. So the Uzi took a massive nerf. The only reason it's not as low as the pistol is because it is an automatic weapon, so you can still spray pretty well with it, but it's definitely a lot harder to kill people a lot fast compared to what it was pre-update. The damage has just gone down an insane amount, and it is very hard to kill people now, so I had to put the Uzi in B tier. Also dropping down spots in the tier list, I'm gonna have to put the burst also in B tier. So I was thinking about putting in A tier, but I think the AR is still a better option than the burst. Obviously, if you are good with the burst, you could definitely still use it. It's just that the new damage drop off and the damage nerfs really, I think, affected it a lot. And I think the burst is gonna have to be in B tier, but it definitely used to be a good weapon. But now, depending on your skill, I think it should just be in B tier. A weapon that involves no skill is gonna have to be the minigun. So the minigun did get a capacity and damage buff, but it also got that damage drop off nerf. So the minigun, I think, is very easily counterable. You are pretty slow in your movement when you use the minigun. Any good player can easily counter the minigun, especially just using a katana with the new katana buff. So you might think that the minigun would be higher because of the buff, but it really just stayed the same, and I don't think it should be any higher on the list. So in the B tier, I'm going to put the flash grenade. So this might surprise some people because this flash grenade does have a very low cooldown. It is pretty easy to use. You just throw it in the air and look away and hope that it hits your opponents. But something with the flash grenade, if you are playing in team modes, you don't know when your teammate's going to throw a flash grenade if you're not talking to them in a VC. So your teammates can easily sabotage you on accident and get you killed because they blind you instead of the enemy. But in solos, I think the flash grenade definitely can be used very well and very easily to get you a win, but I think it just deserves the B tier. Next thing in the B tier is going to be the slingshot. This is more of the higher B tier, by the way, but the slingshot, the damage got nerfed, so it's not as good anymore, but it still is a very spammy and like no skill weapon, so If you guys are looking for a secondary you can just pull out really fast and just spam someone, the slingshot still could be the way to go, but just know that the damage nerf is very effective towards it, and I think there is other better secondary options which I will get into later in the video. At the very top of the B tier, I'm gonna have to put the bow. So some people were a little confused at thinking the bow got nerfed. I'm not entirely sure if it actually did, but apparently it was nerfed in some servers and in some servers it wasn't nerfed. It was a weird situation, but the bow, I feel like now that time has gone on, I still think it's pretty counterable. There is some really good bow players out there, but personally, I had it in the A tier last tier list, but now that time has gone on, I think it deserves to just be in the B tier. I was thinking about putting the grenade in A tier, but I'm gonna have to put it in B tier because I still think that the Molotov, the medkit, and the newly buffed freeze ray are actually better than the grenade. I know the grenade kind of got buffed, but I mean, who cares about that? I know you can launch yourself with the grenade, but I really think it's better to use a different utility weapon. Even just throwing the grenade to try and damage somebody, most maps it's not good for, and I don't think it should be any higher on this tier list. And starting off the A tier, I'm just going to put the fist at the bottom. So I know the fist, they get a damage buff. I mean, it's not too big of a difference because most people don't like completely punch their enemies to death from full health. But it does have that double jump, which can create for some very good movement in the game. But overall, I was thinking about putting it lower, but I feel like most of you like the fist and would have wanted it higher. And also in the A tier is gonna have to be the newly buffed freeze ray gun. So this thing is actually really good now. If you freeze somebody, they completely cannot move, they cannot shoot anymore, and they don't sit in the air anymore. So there is currently a bug to where I don't know if it's a bug actually, it might be in the game on purpose, but if you do freeze them mid-air, they tend to slide when they get to the ground. I'm not sure if that's intended or not, but the freeze ray is really good for catching people off guard and getting a ton of easy damage. So I feel like the freeze ray just has to be an A tier now. So in the A tier, I'm really putting the flare gun. So the flare gun is definitely a secondary you can now use. It now has 2 bullets instead of 1, and it can do some serious damage very fast. It also lasts longer on the map now. So if you did just want to use it for control purposes, it's still very good in that way. But it's also just a good damage dealer now. If you rush somebody and you shoot at them twice, it's really hard to avoid the flare gun because how fast it shoots and how easily it is to hit somebody. So the flare gun definitely deserves to be an A tier now. Also in A tier is going to be the chainsaw. So the chainsaw is of course very good for that quick movement, but the chainsaw actually has some serious damage. This thing does 60 damage per hit if you're not like charging at someone, and if you are charging at someone, it is very hard for them to hit you. And the chainsaw also does a good amount of damage while it's going fast and hitting enemies. So I feel like the A tier is a good spot for chainsaw, but I think the other melees that are left are still a little bit better than it. Next up in the A tier, I'm going to be putting the grenade launcher here. So the grenade launcher got an incredible buff to it. If you hit someone with a direct hit from the grenade launcher, it now deals 100 damage, which is crazy. The grenade launcher definitely deserves to be an A tier now, but I feel like these changes were a little questionable, especially with the RPG, which I'll get to later, man. The RPG is just a completely different story right now. But the grenade launcher, it's not as good as the RPG, but I think it still has to be A tier just because of how fast you can now kill people. Next up in the A tier is gonna have to be the knife. I tend to have all weapons that have the potential to one-shot a full health enemy. Has to be higher up on the tier list. The knife definitely involves skill. It definitely takes practice to use, but if you get good with the knife, you could honestly be unstoppable sometimes, because if you slide backwards and you backstab, you tend to actually backstab the person and immediately kill them. So I would definitely watch out for the knife, and if you can, get some practice in with the knife because it is really good. Next up in the A tier, we have the shorty shotgun. So this is a very good secondary. You can easily 2-pump people into the head and they die. So they definitely got a buff last update, which was actually a while ago now, but it's been a good secondary since that change, and it's now an even better secondary because of the nerfs to the Uzi and the handgun. Finally, declaiming the throne, I'm gonna have to put the AR in A tier now. So the AR definitely was affected by these nerfs. So the AR got straight nerfed, it got damage nerfs, it now has the damage drop off, and I think a couple other things, I'm not completely sure. But the AR is definitely really hard to use. It takes a full clip to kill somebody if you don't hit them 100% accuracy with headshots. So a gun that takes a whole clip to kill someone every single time, assuming you don't miss shots, is not a good weapon anymore. But you still have to like know that the AR is still a good weapon just because of the damage it does have and the range it has and the close range damage that you're able to do. So instead of the S tier, it's just an A tier now. So in the A tier, to keep in mind, this is now the very top of the A tier. I'm gonna put the katana. So the katana did get buffed and nerfed. It now takes 4 seconds for the cooldown for blocking shots instead of 8 seconds, which is actually a huge buff. But they also nerfed that with the katana is not blocking shots for as long. It is now 1 second, which is actually a pretty big difference, and it's definitely noticeable. But the thing with the katana, it's really only good for catching people off guard in like round 1 or like a later round where you haven't been using the katana like the whole match. So people tend to learn what you're doing with the katana if you use it the entire match. So that's why it's not always a good option, but it tends to be a good option most of the time. Also at the top of the A tier, I'm going to be putting the Molotov. So the Molotov is a great way to have some area control. It's easy tick damage, and if you also just throw it on top of yourself when someone is on you by using the quick utility, it's a really good way to get them to go away from you, or you can just kill them because it also is kind of hard for them to see when they're just standing in the fire and the flames are all over their screen. So the Molotov, I've had it lower on my tier list in past videos, but in this video, this is where it is on the top of the A tier. Finishing off the A tier, I'm going to be putting the shotgun. So the shotgun definitely still is really good. Keep in mind, this is like bottom of the S tier, by the way. So the shotgun very well could be an S tier, but I feel like it's better at the very top of the A tier. So that is where I have the shotgun. Honestly, there's not much to say about it. It's literally just a good shotgun in the game. A lot of like mobile players tend to use this because it's really easy to use for them. But overall, the shotgun, just don't get too close to it and you should be able to counter it, but if you get close, it can do some serious damage. Now these next weapons, most of them were buffed this update, but some of them were nerfed, like the medkit and the scythe. The scythe damage wasn't really a problem with it. It still has its good mobility, so that's why it's still going to be in the S tier. But let's just get right into this ranking. So first off, I'm going to be putting the medkit at the, I guess, the bottom of the S tier, you could say, but I still think it is the best utility in the game. It still is kind of pay to win, even though you can buy it with keys eventually. But the medkit, it did get nerfed. It does 30 heal now for the quick utility, and it can no longer let you heal while you are taking damage. So those are two pretty big nerfs, but I still think the ability to heal mid-round is still just so good and so OP, so it has to be in the S tier. Following that up, I'm going to be putting the sniper. So the sniper, if you are a good sniper, oh my goodness, you are a dangerous person, because this sniper in Rivals is actually super easy to use, and I think it's really easy to hit headshots. I find it sometimes easier to hit headshots than body shots. But like, guys, the sniper is just so good. I think it'll probably be an S tier forever unless they remove the one-hit headshot, which I kind of hope they don't do. But it is annoying sometimes when you go up against a good sniper and they just constantly headshot you. So not much to say about the sniper except that it's just super OP. Next up in the S tier is going to be the scythe. I just always have the scythe in S tier because of how good the mobility is, aka how easily you can get high ground on someone, or how you can just dash at somebody and deal a quick bit of damage and catch them off guard. The scythe is definitely the best mobility thing I would say in the game. There is some double jump mechanics for other things, but I think the scythe has the best mobility, and I think it's overall just the best melee you can use. These next 4 weapons were basically buffed. The paintball gun got some nerfs, but let's be real, it's overall has gotten buffed. Damage was buffed, and when you hit a headshot on somebody, you can't see them. So the S tier belongs with the paintball gun. So the paintball gun, unfortunately, it was buffed, as I said like 2 seconds ago, but the paintball gun, I feel like it should not have been buffed. It is extremely hard to see anything on your screen when you get headshotted with it. I think this will eventually get removed when they do another balance change, but I don't think the paintball gun should always be at the top, which it is right now, definitely for automatic, like long-range guns. Unfortunately, it is at the top right now, so if you are pay to win, you're probably happy, but if you're pay to lose, you're probably sad that you keep getting destroyed by the paintball gun. So I'm gonna have the flamethrower. Guys, the flamethrower is at the bottom of my last tier list, but bro, let me tell you, these changes to the flamethrower, I'm telling you, they are so good. Just watch the gameplay that I'm putting out. This was in team deathmatch to where, or I think it might have been free for all, but there was a lot of enemies around me. But guys, even in solos like 2v2, 3v3, 5v5s, flamethrower is so good now. The damage you can do, the range it has, how fast it reloads now, it's just overall so good, and it used to be so bad. But if you guys are saving up your keys for a very expensive weapon, this might just be the weapon you need to buy because of how OP it is now. Next up, by far the best secondary in my opinion is the revolver in S tier. So as soon as I equipped the revolver yesterday, or I guess depending on when you're watching this video, when the update came out, the revolver immediately felt so much better to use, and it felt a lot faster to kill enemies. Overall, it is the best secondary by far. It does take a little bit of skill to use, but once you get that skill down, you can easily melt your enemies. And yeah, I mean, the revolver is just a super good secondary. Last but not least, I'm gonna have to put the newly buffed RPG to the top of the tier list. So if you guys didn't know, this thing can now one-shot people with a direct hit, which if you didn't know, that is very easy to do. If you just go around and play with the RPG, you will know how easy that is to do. And of course, the RPG still has its great mobility features where if you like shoot yourself with a rocket, you go flying across the map, which is still amazing. It still has splash damage. The splash damage isn't as much as it used to be because of the direct hit buff, but honestly, the RPG is just so good right now, and you can definitely expect it to be nerfed in the future. But I had to put the RPG up here. I mean, one shot. I always have one shot things at the top of the tier list, but the RPG is so easy to use, and it's definitely the least skillful weapon in the game right now. And they said in the buff they want to make it a more skillful weapon, but this was not the right way to do it. So you can definitely expect the RPG to be nerfed in the future, but for now, it's at the top of the S tier, and that is the complete tier list of all of the weapons from Update 5, newly buffed and newly nerfed. So yeah, let's go back to the lobby to discuss a couple more things. Alright guys, so that was every single weapon in Roblox Rivals ranked. It's not really worst to best, it just kind of goes based off of the tiers. It's kind of hard to rank stuff from worst to best in a game like this because there's just so many different variety of weapons, but a lot of things got buffed and they went from being really bad to really good really fast. So I guess play with these weapons while you can before they get nerfed. Like the RPG will probably be getting nerfed pretty soon. So yeah, I'll probably have another tier list video out the next balance change update. But for now, just let me know what you would have changed in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.